The rain hammered against the tiled roof like 1,000 accusations, but it was the stranger's face staring back from the bathroom mirror that shattered me first. My hands, her hands, trembled as I touched the sharp cheekbones, the short black hair that fell like a curtain over one blue eye, foreign and fierce. "Andrea," I whispered to the reflection, my voice cracking in a timbre that wasn't mine, the word tasting like betrayal on a tongue I didn't own. I stumbled out into the dim apartment, heart pounding against ribs that felt too strong, too unyielding, the alpha in me roaring even as panic clawed from within. The door to the bedroom hung open, and there she was. I was curled under the sheets, auburn waves spilling across the pillow like spilled wine, green eyes fluttering open in confusion that mirrored my own soul's scream. "What the hell have you done?" I demanded, but it came out in her commanding baritone, the words slicing the air like a cop's flashlight in the dead of night. Andrea, my Andrea, now trapped in the fragile shell of Anastasia the dreamer, bolted upright, clutching the sheets to her chest, her face paling as recognition dawned like a gut punch. "Anna? Oh God, no. This isn't real. Tell me this isn't real." It was real. And in that Barcelona dawn, with the Mediterranean salt air seeping through the cracked window, our worlds had collided into one impossible nightmare. I don't remember the accident. One moment we were laughing over sangria in that hole-in-the-wall tapas bar off La Rambla, the kind where the walls whispered secrets of lovers long gone, and the next blackness. A screech of tires, a flash of headlights, the sickening crunch of metal. But waking up wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the unraveling. My name is Anastasia Hale, 28 years old, an American expat chasing ghosts in Spain. I'd fled New York 3 years ago after my parents' divorce turned our brownstone into a battlefield of passive-aggressive posts and slammed doors. Barcelona called to me with its gaudy curves and hidden courtyards, a place where I could write my novel about fractured identities without the weight of expectation. That's where I met Andrea Voss, 30, the kind of woman who walked into a room and owned it, not with bluster, but with that quiet steel that made you want to follow her anywhere. She was a cop with the Mossos d'Esquadra, the Catalan police force, transferred from Seattle after some shadowy case involving corporate espionage that she never fully unpacked. Alpha wasn't just a label. It was her essence, tall, broad-shouldered, with those piercing blue eyes that could disarm a suspect or melt your resolve over a shared espresso. We met at a protest rally against tourist overdevelopment, me waving a sign about preserving the soul of the city, her in riot gear keeping the peace. She pulled me out of a scuffle with a group of rowdy expats, her hand firm on my elbow, and said, "Easy there, firebrand. Save that passion for something worth fighting for." By the end of the night, we were tangled in a conversation that stretched till the sun rose over the Sagrada Familia spires. She saw through my witty deflections, called out the loneliness I hid behind my typewriter. I saw the cracks in her armor, the way her laugh faltered when talk turned to family, the scar on her knuckles from a fight she wouldn't name. 6 months later we were inseparable. Lazy Sundays in Park Güell sketching tourists, midnight walks along the beach where she'd trace the constellations with her finger, promising they'd spell out our forever. But forevers are fragile things, especially when you're building them on borrowed time. The swap happened in the ER, or so the doctors later pieced together from fragmented witness accounts. A drunk driver in a rented Fiat plowed through the crosswalk on Passeig de Gracia, clipping our cab just enough to send us spinning. Concussions, they said. Severe ones. But when I opened my eyes in that sterile room, tubes snaking into arms that weren't mine, the world tilted on its axis. Nurses bustled around, speaking rapid Catalan, their faces blurring into concern. I tried to call for Andrea, but my throat burned with a voice that boomed deeper than my own. Panic surged as I sat up, the monitors beeping wildly. A mirror across the room caught my eye, and there she was. Andrea's reflection, stern and unyielding, staring back with my terror in those blue depths. I ripped out the 4, ignoring the sting, and bolted from the bed. Hallway lights buzzed overhead as I shoved past a trolley of linens, my new legs carrying me with a power that felt both exhilarating and profane. "Andrea!" I roared, her roar, and heads turned, a security guard reaching for his radio. But I found her first, in the next room down, fragile and lost in my body. She was propped against pillows, auburn hair disheveled, green eyes, my eyes, darting like a cornered animal. "Anna," she whispered, Her voice mine, soft and laced with that Midwestern lilt I'd always teased her about. I collapsed beside the bed, gripping the rail until her knuckles whitened. It's me. God, Andy, it's me. Tears streamed down my face, but they were hers, hot and unfamiliar. She reached out her hand, my hand trembling as it cupped my cheek. How? This can't. We have to fix this. We didn't tell the doctors at first. What would we say? Excuse me, but our souls swapped places like some bad body swap comedy? Instead, we played along, signing discharge papers with shaky hands, me forging Andrea's signature on forms meant for Anastasia Hale. The hospital released us after 24 hours of observation, chalking up our disorientation to trauma. Rest, hydrate, follow up with neurology, the attending physician advised in accented English, oblivious to the chasm we'd fallen into. Back in our apartment in the Gracia neighborhood, a third-floor walk-up with creaky wooden beams and a balcony overlooking a plaza where old men played dominoes, we barricaded ourselves in. The city thrummed outside, oblivious. Street musicians strumming flamenco riffs, the scent of paella wafting from corner cafes. Inside we were unraveling. I paced the living room, Andrea's body moving with a predatory grace that made me feel like an imposter in a superhero suit. We need a plan. Your job, mine now I guess, starts back tomorrow. I can't just ghost the precinct. She huddled on the couch, knees drawn to her chest in my slight frame, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Forget the job. We need to go back to the hospital, demand tests, MRIs, whatever it takes. And tell them what? That we're living each other's lives. Frustration boiled over, and I slammed a fist into the wall. Her fist, leaving a dent in the plaster that would cost us our deposit. Pain shot up my arm, but it was distant, muffled by this vessel's resilience. Her eyes, my eyes filled with tears. Anna, please. I'm scared. Your body feels so breakable. Like one wrong move and I'll shatter. That broke me. I dropped to my knees before her, pulling her into an embrace that was all wrong angles and mismatched heartbeats. I know. Mine feels like armor I didn't earn. But we're in this together. We always have been. We clung like that until exhaustion claimed us, falling asleep on the rug amid scattered notebooks and her service pistol, cleaned and locked away after our last argument about her long hours. The first betrayal came softly, disguised as necessity. Andrea, in my body, insisted on handling the easy stuff, my freelance writing gigs, the emails to my agent about the novel deadline I'd already blown twice. I'll channel your voice, she promised, pecking a kiss to my forehead with lips that were mine. I nodded, too drained to argue, and suited up in her uniform for the morning shift. The precinct was a hive of fluorescent hum and coffee-scented urgency, tucked into a modernist building near the Plaza Catalunya. Colleagues clapped me on the back, murmuring sympathies about the freak accident. Voss, you look like hell, grunted Javier, her grizzled partner, a Catalan native with a mustache like a broom bristle. Take it easy out there. I forced a grin, Andrea's trademark cocky tilt. Wouldn't dream of it, partner. Inside I was a storm. How did she navigate stakeouts? Decode the radio chatter laced with slang I barely grasped? By noon, we were on patrol in the Gothic Quarter, the narrow alleys echoing with tourists' laughter and the distant toll of church bells. That's when the call came. A domestic disturbance at a pension off Cara de Ferran. We arrived to find a young couple. Two women mid-20s, one with a split lip and the other wild-eyed, clutching a broken vase like a weapon. The air reeked of stale wine and regret. Hands down, ladies, I barked in halting Spanish, Andrea's authority flowing through me like muscle memory. The aggressor lunged, vase shattering against the wall inches from my head. Instinct took over, her instinct, and I twisted her arm behind her back, cuffing her with efficient brutality. The victim sobbed thanks, her girlfriend's curses fading as Javier hauled her away. In the squad car, adrenaline crashed. Good takedown, Voss, Javier said, lighting a cigarette despite the no-smoking sign. Reminds me of that Seattle op you won't talk about. My blood, her blood iced over. What up? He chuckled, exhaling smoke. Come on. The one that got you shipped here. Corporate goons, falsified reports. Ring a bell. She'd never told me. Not the full story. Just vague allusions to burnout and a bad case. Betrayal bloomed in my chest, sharp as the victim's cut lip. Andrea had secrets, walls I'd always respected but now resented. As we cruised back to base, the Ramblas alive with evening strollers, I gripped the wheel tighter, vowing to unearth what she'd buried. That night I confronted her over takeout fadua from the bodega downstairs, the noodles cold and congealing on our plates. Seattle. What happened, Andy? Javier mentioned an op falsified reports. She froze, fork midway to her mouth, my mouth. Green eyes, my eyes, flicked away toward the balcony where geraniums drooped in clay pots. It was nothing. Ancient history. Nothing? It got you exiled to Spain. And you lied to me, by omission sure, but it's the same damn thing. Her voice rose, laced with my own indignation. Leet? I protected you. That case. It was ugly. Tech firm bribing officials, me in too deep. I bent rules to expose them, got scapegoated. If I dragged you into it, you'd be testifying in depositions instead of writing your book. I laughed, bitter and hollow in her throat. Protected? Or controlled? You're always the hero, the alpha saving the day. But what if I don't need saving? What if I want all of you, scars and screw-ups included? She stood, my body trembling with fury. You think this is easy? Waking up as the fragile artist who second-guesses every word? Your doubts, your fears, they're in my head now, Anna. I feel them like knives. And I feel your isolation. The weight of that badge, the calls you take in the dark that leave you shaking. We're mirrors now, Andy. No more hiding. The argument escalated, words flying like shrapnel. My accusations of emotional armor. Her retorts about my fear of commitment. We ended up inches apart, breaths mingling. Hers mine, mine hers. In a standoff that crackled with the electricity we'd always mistaken for anger. Then without warning she kissed me. It was clumsy, desperate. My lips on hers but souls colliding in a way that transcended flesh. For a heartbeat the world righted, warmth flooding the wrongness. We pulled apart, gasping. We can't, I whispered even as I craved more. We have to, she countered, eyes fierce. Until we switch back. Susana. Still us. But the swap deepened the fractures. Days blurred into a tense routine. Me clocking hours at the precinct, dodging Javier's probing questions, while she holed up with my laptop, pounding out chapters in a voice that was too clipped, too cop-like for my lyrical style. My agent emailed. Love the edge, Stasia, but where's the heart? I cringed, knowing she'd stripped the vulnerability to armor it up. Worse were the nights. Sleep brought dreams that weren't ours. Flashes of her Seattle rain-slick streets. A partner's betrayal in a dimly lit warehouse. The crack of a gunshot that echoed her unspoken PTSD. I'd wake sweating in her body, reaching for her across the bed, only to find her curled away, murmuring apologies in my voice. The conflict peaked on a humid Friday, 2 weeks in, when a lead from her caseload pulled me under. A string of art thefts targeting queer-owned galleries, ironic, given our own stolen selves. The suspect was a disgruntled ex-curator, Elena, mid-40s, with a grudge against the scene that had cast her out after a messy breakup. We staked out her atelier in the Poblenou district. Javier and I hunkered in an unmarked van, the air thick with diesel and impatience. Vas, you seem off, he noted, munching on churros. That crash scramble your brains? Something like that, I muttered, scanning the warehouse shadows. Elena emerged at dusk, canvas bag slung over her shoulder, slipping into the night like a ghost. We tailed her to a derelict factory by the port, the sea's brine mixing with rust and decay. Inside she met her fence. A wiry American expat named Marcus, voice like gravel over a bad connection. I moved first, Andrea's training kicking in, silent breach, gun drawn low. But as I rounded the corner, Elena spun, eyes widening in recognition. Not of me, but of her. Vas? You bitch, you ruined me last time. Last time? The pieces slammed together. Seattle op? Corporate espionage but tied to art fraud? Andrea's secret case had crossed continents, and Elena was the loose end. She lunged, not with a weapon but desperation, tackling me to the concrete. Fists flew, hers wild, mine precise, and for a moment I was lost in the fray, Andrea's strength surging. Javier radioed backup, but it was too late. Elena's nails raked her cheek, drawing blood that welled hot. You think you can play hero again? Elena snarled, pinning me. She lied for you once, falsified that report to bury my name. Now look at us, both broken. The revelation hit harder than the punch to my gut. Andrea had covered for her? No, protected an innocent? Or buried evidence to shield someone? Betrayal twisted deeper, a knife in the ribs. Backup swarmed, hauling Elena off as Javier cuffed her. In the ambulance later, stitches pulling at my skin, I stared at the ceiling, the port's foghorn moaning like a dirge. Javier filled the silence. Heard whispers. Voss pulled strings back in the States for a source. Kept her clean. Noble, but it cost her. Noble. The word tasted like ash. I confronted Andrea at dawn, bursting into the apartment reeking of antiseptic and salt. She was at the kitchen table, my laptop open to a half-finished chapter, green eyes bloodshot from another sleepless night. Elena, you buried her in your report. Lied to protect her, why? She didn't flinch, just closed the screen with deliberate calm. She was collateral. Innocent in the theft ring, fed me intel. If I'd named her, the cartel would have silenced her. I chose the greater good. The greater good? I echoed, her voice breaking. You chose alone. We promise no secrets, Andy. This swap. It's punishment, isn't it? For all the walls you've built. Tears carved tracks down her face, my face. Punishment? It's a wake-up call. I've been running since Seattle, Anna. From the guilt, the isolation. You deserve better than half a partner. I sank onto a chair, the weight of her body mirroring the crush in my chest. And you deserve more than a dreamer who can't even finish her own story. But we're here in each other's skins. Feel that? My heart in your chest. It's racing for you. Always has. She reached across the table, our hands mismatched yet fitting, entwining. I love you, Anastasia Hale. Terrifying, breakable you. Even when you're stubborn as hell. The kiss that followed was slower, a reclamation. Not frantic but a vow. Lips brushing with the tenderness of recognition. Breath sinking like waves on the Costa Brava. In that moment the bodies faded. It was souls touching, raw and real. But climax demands reckoning. That afternoon a neurologist from the hospital called. Dr. Ruiz, a wiry woman with a penchant for puzzles. Señorita Voss? Hale. We've reviewed your scans. Anomalous brain activity, but a theory. Mirror neurons overfiring post-trauma. Psychological echo. It might resolve with immersion therapy. Living as the other fully. Until the psyche realigns. Immersion. Face our truths or lose ourselves forever. We dove in. I shadowed her cases, learning the badge's burden. The midnight calls to battered spouses. The moral grays of justice in a city teetering between tradition and tourism. She inhabited my world. Interviews with eccentric artists in El Raval. The ache of blank pages under deadline. Betrayals surfaced like flotsam. Her admission of a one-night stand in Seattle, born of loneliness. My confession of sabotaging a past relationship out of fear. Each revelation a wound, but lanced, it healed. The turning point came during Sant Jordi, Barcelona's Lovers' Festival, when roses and books flooded the streets like a crimson tide. We wandered Rambla de Catalunya, her in my sundress fluttering like butterfly wings. Me in jeans and a leather jacket that felt like home. Amid the throng, a street performer sang a Catalan ballad of lost souls finding harbor, and Andrea, in my body, slipped a rose into my hand. Truce, she murmured, green eyes shimmering. More than that, I replied, tucking a book of Lorca's poems into her palm, our palm. Redemption. As fireworks burst over the Montjuic fountain that night, something shifted. A dizzying vertigo like the world inverting then righting. I blinked and the mirror in our apartment confirmed it. Auburn hair framing green eyes, my own reflection staring back. Andrea gasped beside me, blue eyes wide in her face, hand flying to her short crop. We were us again. The doctors called it spontaneous remission, a miracle of the mind. But we knew better, the human heart's capacity to forgive, to merge and emerge whole. Months later my novel hit shelves. Swapped Shadows, a tale of two women trading lives in a sun-drenched city, finding love in the ruins. Andrea got promoted, her testimony in the art theft ring clearing old ghosts. We married on a cliffside in Cadax, Dolly's white village watching over us, vows exchanged in English and Catalan, rings simple silver bands etched with stars. Barcelona taught us that bodies are vessels, but love? That's the unbreakable thread. In the end, we didn't just survive the swap. We wove it into our story, a tapestry of drama and grace, proving that even in betrayal's shadow, redemption blooms. Life post-swap wasn't a fairy tale epilogue. It was the messy middle, where happily ever after gets road-tested against reality's potholes. Andrea and I emerged from that vertigo stronger, or so we told ourselves over morning cortados at our favorite cafe in the Bourne district, where the air hummed with the clink of porcelain and the murmur of multilingual secrets. But strength is a muscle, and ours ached from the strain. My novel's launch party was a whirlwind of validation I'd craved but never trusted. Held in a converted textile mill turned gallery space off Cara del Rec, it drew a crowd of expats, locals, and a smattering of New York literati who'd flown in for the spectacle. Andrea stood sentinel at my side, her arm a steady anchor around my waist, blue eyes scanning the room like it was a crime scene rather than a celebration. "You did this, Anna," she whispered as I signed my first copy, the spine creaking under my pen like a confession. "Dédicate." To Andrea, who showed me my own reflection. She blushed, rare for her, and pressed a kiss to my temple. "Sap. But I like it." Javier crashed the event uninvited, mustache twitching with mischief, a bottle of cava in each fist. "Vas. Or should I say, Hale's better half? Congrats on the ink, heard it's got more twists than a Barca match." He thrust a book at me, already dog-eared. "Read the part about the cop with secrets. Too close for comfort." Andrea stiffened beside me, but I laughed it off, channeling her easy deflection. "Art imitates life, partner. Just don't sue for libel." The banter flowed but undercurrents pulled. Elena's trial loomed, and Andrea's testimony was key. She'd wrestled with it for weeks, the weight of reopening old wounds. "What if they drag up Seattle?" she'd confide in the quiet hours, her head on my lap as I stroked her hair. "What if it costs me the promotion?" "Then we fight," I'd say, echoing her alpha resolve. "Together." But togetherness has fault lines. My success stirred envy I hadn't anticipated, not from her, but from the green-eyed monster within myself. Late nights at the desk, chasing the next deadline, I'd catch her watching from the doorway, arms crossed, a shadow of that post-swap vulnerability lingering. "You're glowing, Anna. Like you don't need me anymore." I'd pull her close, murmuring assurances, but doubt festered. Was the swap a gift or a curse, forcing us to confront that we were equals, not savior and saved? The real storm brewed with a letter from Seattle. It arrived on a postcard-perfect Tuesday, slipped under our door like contraband. No stamp, just crisp stationery addressed to Detective Voss. Andrea found it while I was out interviewing a sculptor for a profile, and by the time I returned, the apartment felt charged, like the air before a tramontana wind. She sat at the kitchen table, the letter crumpled in her fist, face a mask of controlled fury. "My ex-partner. Kyle. He's out. Parole board sprung him early." Kyle, the name she'd uttered only once, in a fever dream confession during the swap, when his betrayal had nearly broken her. The warehouse shootout, the falsified report that pinned the blame on her. "He sold me out for a payout," she'd gasped then, my body shaking. Left me holding the bag. Now the bag was unzipped. The letter was a taunt. "Heard you're playing house in Spain. Careful ghost travel." No signature, but the postmark screamed Pacific Northwest. I dropped my bag, crossing to her in 3 strides. "We burn it. End of story." Her laugh was sharp, edged with pain. "Can't burn the past, Donna. He's coming for Elena's trial, witness for the defense. Says I coerced her back then." Betrayal's echo, round 2. Not hers against me, but the world's against us. Coerced? That's bullshit. You protected her. Protected? She mocked herself, standing to pace. Or played God. What if Kyle's right? What if my greater good was just ego? The argument ignited fast, flames fed by exhaustion. I accused her of walling off again. She fired back that my fame was a shield, distancing us from the raw weed shared in swapped skins. You write about us like we're characters, poetic, contained. But this. She waved the letter. This is chaos. And you're already drafting the chapter. I recoiled, stung. I'm processing, Andy. Same as you patrol to forget. We're different, but that's why it works. Works. She halted, eyes blazing. Or survives. The door slammed behind me as I stormed out, the plaza's fountain mocking with its eternal trickle. I wandered the Gothic quarter's labyrinth, cobblestones uneven underfoot, until I found solace in a shadowed tapas bar, nursing a vermouth amid locals' nursing grudges. Hours ticked by, my phone silent, no calls, no texts. Had I pushed too far? Andrea found me at closing, her silhouette filling the doorway, rain-damp jacket slung over one arm. Walk with me. We traced the Bari Gotic's veins, past the cathedral's looming facade, where street lamps cast halos on puddles. Silence stretched, companionable yet fraught, until she spoke. I called my therapist back home, the one from the force. Admitted I need help with the PTSD, the secrets. Starting sessions next week. My heart unclenched. I'm proud. And I'm sorry. The book, the distance, its fear of losing you to this. She stopped under an archway, pulling me into the alcove's shelter. Never. You're my anchor, Anna. Swap or no? Our kiss was rain-kissed, urgent yet tender, a reaffirmation amid the city's indifferent pulse. Hands roamed not with lust, but longing fingers tracing collarbones, breaths mingling in whispered promises. We made love that night in the slow burn of candlelight, bodies reunited in their rightful homes, every touch a map of forgiveness. The trial was a gauntlet, held in the austere Tribunal de Barcelona. It unfolded over sweltering days, the courtroom a pressure cooker of legalese and lies. Elena sat composed in the dock, her 40s lending a weary dignity, while Kyle took the stand like a specter, lean, hollow-cheeked, his testimony a venomous weave of half-truths. Voss twisted my words, he claimed, eyes locking on Andrea's across the room. Coerced the informant to flip. She's got a hero complex, sacrifices pawns for the win. Andrea's turn came on day 3. She strode to the stand in her dress blues, badge polished to a gleam, voice steady as she dismantled his narrative piece by piece. Logs, emails, the uncorrupted report she'd unearthed from archives. I protected a source from retaliation, she stated, unflinching. Detective Harlan profited from the corruption I exposed. This isn't about Elena, it's revenge. The judge's gavel fell like thunder. Elena acquitted, Kyle remanded for perjury probe. Outside, reporters swarmed, but Andrea cut through, grabbing my hand. It's over. Not quite, I said, nodding to the figure lurking by the courthouse steps. Javier, holding 2 helados from the vendor across the street. Figured you'd need backup. He grinned, handing over cones dripping in the heat. And maybe a beer later. On me for the book, and for Voss finally spilling her guts. We toasted that night at a seaside chiringuito in Barceloneta. Waves lapping the sand like applause. Andrea leaned into me, head on my shoulder. Humanistic ending, huh? Not tragic, but earned. I smiled, tasting salt on her skin. The best kind. Yet drama lingers. It's the spice of living. My sequel brewed ideas. A sequel to our story, delving into expat isolation. While Andrea mentored rookies, her vulnerability a quiet strength. We adopted a rescue cat. A tabby with one blue eye, named Echo, reminder of mirrored souls. One evening, as autumn painted the city in ochre, we climbed Montjuic for the sunset, the castle's silhouette against a sky bruised purple. Remember the swap? I asked, lacing fingers with hers. Every day, she replied. It showed me you, not the idea of you. And you showed me strength isn't armor, it's letting it crack. Below, Barcelona sprawled. A mosaic of spires and streets where we'd forged our path. In that American dream-chasing Spanish soul city, our love was the truest plot twist. Not perfection but persistence. Human, flawed, and fiercely ours. Winter crept into Barcelona like an uninvited guest. The Mistral winds off the sea turning palm fronds to whips and forcing us indoors to the rhythm of cast-iron radiators and simmering Estavat. Andrea and I settled into a domesticity that felt revolutionary. Shared calendars color-coded for therapy sessions and writing retreats, grocery lists scribbled on the fridge in dual languages. Echo the cat claimed the windowsill as throne, batting at raindrops while we navigated the subtler conflicts of coupledom. The first real test post-trial was family. Mine called from the States, Mom post-divorce glow intact, Dad's voice a gruff cameo on speaker. Stasia, honey, we're proud. But when are you bringing this Andrea home? For Thanksgiving. We could do turkey with a Catalan twist. Andrea hovered in the kitchen, pretending to chop onions for sopa, but her knife faltered at the mention. Her family was a minefield. Estranged father, a Seattle cop who disowned her after the op fallout, a mother lost to cancer years back. Tell them yes, she urged later, over wine that loosened tongues. I want to meet the Hales. Earn my place. We flew to New York in November. The city a blitz of yellow cabs and holiday lights that made Barcelona feel quaint. Mom's brownstone, once a war zone, now buzzed with forced cheer. Pumpkin pie cooling on the sill, Dad's new girlfriend fluttering like a nervous bird. Andrea charmed them effortlessly. Her stories of busting pickpockets in the Boqueria market drawing laughs, her hand never leaving mine under the table. But cracks showed at dinner's end, when Dad pulled her aside for the talk. I caught fragments from the study. Proud of her grit, but Anna's always been the dreamer. You gonna ground her, Voss? Her response low and steady. Ground? No. But I'll fight for her dreams, same as she does for mine. He emerged clapping her back, eyes misty. Welcome to the family, kid. On the flight home, she confessed the tremor in her voice. Your dad's right. I'm the anchor, sometimes too heavy. You're the tide, I countered, head on her shoulder amid the cabin's hum, pulling me out, then letting me crash free. Back in Spain, her own reckoning arrived unannounced. A letter from her father, forwarded from Seattle. Yellowed envelope, handwriting arthritic and angry. Saw the news about your trial. Knew you dragged the batch through mud. But blood's blood, call if you need bailing out. She read it aloud in the balcony, chill, voice flat, then crumpled it into the recycling. He doesn't get it. Never did. I wrapped arms around her from behind, chin on her shoulder. Then we make our own blood. Invite Javier and his wife for New Year's. Start traditions. She turned, blue eyes softening. You always know. New Year's Eve unfolded in our plaza. Fireworks shattering the sky as we danced to buskers' rumbas. Javier's mustache singed from a sparkler mishap. Andrea proposed then, not with fanfare, but a simple knee drop amid the revelry, ring glinting in her palm. Silver inlaid with a tiny Sagrada mosaic shard. Marry me, Anastasia? Not because of swaps or trials, but because every day with you feels like coming home. Tears blurred the lights. I nodded, pulling her up for a kiss that tasted of kava and future. Yes. 1,000 times. Wedding planning became our next drama. A humanist ceremony in Cadax, blending American whimsy with Catalan earthiness. Mom flew in for dress fittings, insisting on something elegant but not stuffy, while Andrea's lone invitee, her therapist, offered quiet counsel on vows that honored scars. Conflict arose in the details. I wanted wildflowers and barefoot on the sand. She craved structure, a nod to her cop's precision. What if it rains? She'd fret, spreadsheets open on the laptop. Then we dance in it. I'd tease, but beneath was fear of imperfection mirroring our imperfect start. The rehearsal dinner quelled it. Held at a cliffside taverna, waves crashing below like applause. Javier toasted. To Voss and Hale, two forces that collided and conquered. May your love be as unbreakable as a good pair of cuffs. Laughter rippled. Andrea squeezed my hand under the table, her touch a silent we've got this. The day dawned, crystalline, June sun gilding the bay. We exchanged vows on a promontory, wind tousling veils and tuxedo tails. Mine a flowing lace gown in ivory, hers a tailored suit of midnight blue. Guests sparse but heartfelt. Mom dabbing eyes, Javier snapping photos, Elena even showing her presence a bridge over past chasms. I, Andrea Voss, take you, Anastasia Hale, in body and soul. She began, voice carrying over the surf. Through swaps and secrets, trials and truths, you've taught me that love isn't possession. It's partnership. I vow to stand beside you, not before or behind. Tears fell as I responded. And I, Anastasia, take you, Andrea, in all your alpha glory and hidden depths. You've shown me that vulnerability is valor, that home is a person, not a place. Together we'll write the story, ours unbroken. Rings slid on, sealing the pact. The kiss sealed our joy, cheers mingling with gulls' cries. Honeymoon in the Pyrenees. Hikes through pine-scented trails. Nights in stone cabanas where stars blanketed the sky. There, in the afterglow of vows, we delved deeper. Conversations by firelight about children. Perhaps one day via donor. A family forged in our image. Two moms kicking ass in Barcelona. she joked, but her eyes held the dream. Back home, life layered on. My second book deal, her captaincy at the precinct. Echo birthed kittens, 3 one-eyed like her, turning our apartment into a nursery of fur and chaos. Betrayals faded to footnotes, conflicts to growth spurts. Yet the humanistic core endured. A quiet afternoon in Parc de la Ciudadela, rowboat gliding on the lake, her head in my lap. Think we'll ever swap again? She mused, tracing my palm. I smiled down. Only in dreams. And even then I'd find you. Barcelona, our adopted heart, pulsed around us. A city of exiles and embraces, where American wanderers found Spanish soul. Our story, not climax's end but life's continuum. Dramatic in its depths, romantic in its reach, eternally human in its hope. In the end, waking up in another body hadn't stolen us. It had gifted us back to ourselves. And in each other's arms we were whole.